Welcome to the WoodSongs podcast, songs and stories of America's front porch with folk singer Michael Jonathan.
He wrote to his brother, "Art is to console those broken by life." Today's podcast is about an artist that was incredibly misunderstood, incredibly rejected, incredibly hurt, very lonely, very ill, but he loved color and painting and drawing. And his life started out very difficult. His mother gave birth to a child, a little boy, and named him. And that child died at birth. And about a year later, this artist was born. But the mother was so broken by what happened to her that she named the new little boy the exact same name as his dead brother. And he grew up in the shadow of a dead child that his mother kept wishing was still there, kept wishing that he was the brother that died. Can you imagine what that does to a child? He tried many different kinds of vocations. He wanted to be a gallery owner, so he worked in a gallery, but that failed. He was very religious because of his family upbringing, so he tried very hard to be a minister. That failed as well. And then he tried to become a painter. And for 10 years, 10 short years, he would draw and paint, and he would try so hard. But he wrote to his uncle, he said, "No one buys my paintings." He wrote to his brother, he said, "My uncle has seen my work and he thinks it's frightful." Can you imagine the hurt that it is of any artist that goes through their life rejected by their parents, goes through their career rejected by the audience that they're trying to find? And I'll bet you anything, many of you have felt that way too. It's very hard to find support. A lot of folks don't have family that supports him. This artist did not. His family rejected him, if not for his younger brother who believed in this artist. And at first, when he started his painting career, his paintings were very, very dark. They were a lot of browns, a lot of dark colors. And then he discovered something he called light. He loved the color yellow. Matter of fact, he loved the color yellow so much, you know what he did? He wanted the joy that was represented by the color yellow inside his soul because he felt so much sadness. So he would start eating the yellow paint, hoping that by ingesting this paint, that bright, happy spirit that the color yellow gave him would become part of his own soul. What he didn't realize, that paint was full of lead, and it made his illness even worse. And his brother, who was supporting him, his younger brother, sending him money and paints to keep his little burgeoning career going, tried very hard to keep him enthused because this painter kept falling into deep, deep depressions. And so he went to a mutual friend, another artist named Paul Gauguin. You may have heard of him before. And one of our podcasts in the future is going to be all about him. But what a strange man he was. But the artist's brother, his younger brother, paid Paul Gauguin to be this artist's friend. Can you imagine that? You had to pay someone to become a friend so that your older brother wouldn't, fall apart at the seams. So Paul Gauguin went and joined this artist, and for about a month lasted with him. But he was so clingy, this artist was so clingy that Paul Gauguin was going crazy being around him. And Paul Gauguin's art was much, much different than this artist. And Paul had very strange personal habits. But after about a month, Paul decided he had it. He couldn't take it anymore. So 2 days before Christmas, he announces to the artist, "I am leaving you. I can't deal with you anymore." The artist was hurt, rejected yet again, angry, lonely, in fear of the emptiness. So he got a knife. And as Paul Gauguin walked in the darkness going towards a bar a few blocks away, the artist comes down the stairs with a knife and creeps behind Paul Gauguin in the darkness. And Paul heard something, turned around, and he saw him holding the knife. And it so humiliated the artist, so put such fear in him for what he was about to do to this person that was supposed to be his friend. He runs up the stairs and he cuts a portion of his ear off. Downstairs was a little cafe, and there was a waitress there that had a lot of health problems, was a little deformed. So he took the portion of his ear, went down, and gave it to the waitress in his mind to show her that not everybody is normal, not everybody is healthy, not everybody is put together right. 2 days before Christmas, he cut his ear off. He ended up going into an asylum. And while he was in this asylum in the south of France, he would look out through the bars of his window at night, and he'd see the stars above. During the day, they let him in the garden below to paint. And so he painted what he imagined. He painted a prayer to a God that he wasn't sure he even believed in anymore. Remember, he tried to be a minister once, and that was a failed effort on his part. So he would paint this prayer into the starry skies above. He painted a hometown because he didn't have a home. He painted a big, tall cypress tree, something that represented strength to him because he was weak. And he tried to finish the painting and give it away, but it was so sloppy. It was so not right. Back in the day that he was painting, other painters tried to be almost photographic in how exact their paintings were. This was a very sloppy painting. You could even see the canvas through the brushstrokes. And nobody wanted this painting. Nobody wanted it. Nobody liked it. Even Paul Gauguin. He tried to give his friend who left him this painting as a gift, and even Paul Gauguin rejected the painting. I went to the Met in New York City to view this thing. It's hanging there. It's got a very plain, simple frame. It almost looks like a Walmart frame. That's how plain it is. But to stand where this artist stood while holding his brush, painting this visual prayer of swirling stars, of something in the night sky, reaching out to some kind of God that he wasn't sure was ever going to listen to him. It's a very moving thing. Before he died, he painted something else called Wheat Fields, which was a painting full of turmoil and anger and frustration. His final painting, a day before he passed away, was called Tree Roots. But it's amazing that he would write to his brother before he passed. He said, "I shall never amount to anything as an artist, I'm sure of it." And yet this painting about the starry skies hanging in the Met, he couldn't give it away, but it's now it's insured for over $1 billion, with a B, $1 billion. It's the most revered, it's the most famous, it's the most duplicated, it's the most copied painting in the history of art. And yet when he was alive, nobody liked it, nobody liked him, and he died full of sadness and loneliness. And his brother Theo came to him as he was passing away after 2 little boys shot him in the belly. That's what they think has happened to him now. His final words was, "This sadness will last forever." There was a song, because of publishing litigation these days, I can't sing the melody, but you know the guitar arrangement goes like this. Beautiful song. Again, I can't sing the melody because of litigation problems with publishers, which is happening everywhere, and that's another thing that we'll talk about in the podcast. But remember, if you cannot find your audience, if you cannot find support in your own family, if your friends tell you that you're not good enough, if nobody buys your paintings or your songs, if your CDs are sitting in boxes because nobody buys CDs anymore, remember, if you're feeling lost, if you're feeling frustrated, if you're feeling alone, you're in good company, because the famous artist Vincent van Gogh felt exactly the way you do.
The WoodSongs podcast, songs and stories of America's Front Porch, is presented worldwide by Martin Guitars, the Department of Kentucky Tourism, Ear Trumpet Mics, and listeners like you. Our technical producer is Gavin Clark. I'm Gabrielle Dahlgren. Follow us online at woodsongs.com.